Hello, I'm Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com. Today I'm going to talk to you about opioids and why they are so dangerous, why they're so addictive, and how we can stop the UK slipping into the same crisis that the USA have got themselves into. So what are opioids? Well, opioids are medicinal compounds which originate from opium. Opiates are natural derivatives and opioids are partially synthetic, so they're partially man-made, but they still originate from opium. And it's from the sap of the opium poppy. So substances such as codeine, dihydrocodeine, morphine, fentanyl, Trenadil are all long-term painkillers that a lot of people end up getting horrendously addicted to, and it's causing no end of problems in the US and threatening to do the same in the UK. So opioid overdose has gone up in most of the US states by over 30%, 50%, and in some areas up over 70% than it was in July 2016. So that is a massive increase. And what tends to happen, or what they've said, is that the addiction slips quite rapidly into heroin addiction, or it can do. So what tends to happen is that sort of 21 to 29% of patients receiving opioids for chronic pain do misuse them. So for some people they work fine, and that's great. It's not the drug of choice for long-term pain. They are good medication to have for short-term acute pain, and they work quite well for those. However, you do need to understand that they have addictive qualities even in the short term. So there's a few things that we're going to go through which can reduce our likelihood of succumbing to the same opioid crisis. So as I've said before, between 21 and 29% of patients receiving opioids for chronic pain do actually misuse them. Between 8 and 12% of those develop an addiction, and 4 to 6% of them go on to develop heroin addiction. So not a huge number, but a substantial number of people whose lives have been destroyed as a result of this medication. And 80% of heroin addicts say that they started on opioids. So there is a real definite cause and effect that's going on there. Part of the reason is that some drug companies haven't been as transparent as they should have been about the addictive quality of their drugs. And in the US in particular, the nature of the healthcare system means that quite often, because people are paying, they are more demanding about requiring some sort of a prescription. In the UK, there is also a culture of serious overprescribing. And we've seen that with the antibiotics and with the resistance crisis and how that is affecting things. So what I would plead to you is, if you are going to your GP, please don't expect to come out with a prescription, because on the antibiotic side, if you have a viral illness, an antibiotic is not going to help. Likewise with your pain, if you have a long-term pain, then an opioid is not likely to be the best drug for you to have. Don't assume that the doctors know best in this case, because the pharmacists are the ones who have the degree in pharmacology, and they are very, very good at helping as advise as to which would be the best drugs to take for whatever. So the GPs will be prescribing, but they are not necessarily the experts in prescribing. They can't be experts in everything. So do your own research first and check it with the pharmacist. The high street pharmacists are absolutely brilliant. And more GP surgeries are now having a pharmacist on site to help them and be experts within the surgery, so that they are the drug experts and the GP is the health expert, and between them you will get much better care. So the key is, if you have long-term care, long-term pain, and you're being prescribed an opiate, just question it. If you're doing very well on it and you're not addicted to it, then don't fiddle around with it. That's great, because not everybody does become addicted to them. But patients must be better informed. The other thing I would say is, please be very careful of online pharmacies. They are not regulated to the extent of high street pharmacists. And yes, you can buy all sorts of medication online, but just think about where it's come from. And the other bit of advice is, what else are you taking that might interact? You need somebody, a pharmacist or a GP, or hopefully combined, who can look at the whole of you and recommend the right medication for all the other parts of your life. So if you're taking over-the-counter medication, you need to make sure that the medical experts, be it your GP or be it your hospital physician, knows about that medication. And just be careful about different elements in your diet as well that could interact with your drugs. So give them as much information as you can, and hopefully they will be able to prescribe you the best medication, and don't always expect to go away with a prescription. I hope that's helpful. That's Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com.